first. On the injury front, we've discussed a couple of the D linemen that are going to be gone for the rest of the season. We've added another one to the list. Unfortunately, Tyrone Fongnono is going to have season-ending surgery on his foot. He kind of tried to limp through fall camp. We were hoping it was just an arch sprain. Unfortunately, he's actually getting surgery today. Should be a quick recovery. Good news is we'll be able to use a red shirt for Tyrone because he did not play did not redshirt as a freshman, and just kind of, it's funny how sometimes things stack up at one position, and I think that just really, really impressed with the job that Byron Hout's doing with our D-line. Based on the number of guys that we've lost up front, the experience that we've lost, and how we've been able to consistently perform, I think, at a pretty high level. And it's going to be even more challenging now knowing that we're not going to get him back. So that's the bad news. And the good news is we've got some young kids that are taking advantage of some opportunities. I think Marcus Farragut from Butte has done a really good job of filling in and maturing and growing every game. Then we've got Derek Marks from Belgrade, who's scrappy, tough kid, and is actually a pretty good natural pass rusher and has provided some real quality downs for us. And we are going to make a move. We did it last week, putting Woody Brandom over there on the defensive side. I think that gives us a little bit more maturity and size. And Woody's a good reactionary player, very sudden, has good twitch, and I think will adjust well. And I know he's excited up to be able to help the team in that regard.
What about Chad?
Chad was out at practice yesterday, obviously finished the game on Saturday, and I'll have a lot more information on him at 4 o'clock with our injury report today, see how he comes back after kind of taking it easy, getting some treatment yesterday.
All right, what can you tell us about Sac State?
Well, I can tell you that they're kind of what I would expect them to be. I mean, you've got a team that's from the largest metropolitan area in the conference, and so they've got access to a lot of skill players, and they are very good at the skill positions. I think their quarterback is a good player. He's hitting about 52% of his passes. They throw a lot of shots down the field. They do stretch defense as well. He's probably at his best when he's using his legs. He's a very good scrambler. They do design specific runs for him, quarterback draw, zone read, things of that nature. He gets out of the pocket, scrambles well. We're going to have to do a good job of leveraging him. He had a very, very good game against Idaho State on Saturday, and he's kind of, I think, finding his guys. He's got number 5. He's a good player to any kid. He's a really good returner. He's super quick, kind of a Jay Sean Gates body type, 5'7", 155-pound kid. Sharp breaks, catches the ball in the open field, a lot of quick screens, and he can do some things with it. And then the guy that's kind of their vertical threat down the field is number 7, and they hit him a couple times in the Idaho State game, and he's a big, long junior college transfer that has really good top-end speed. I like both of their backs, 4 and 25. They kind of complement each other. 4 is kind of more of the scat back. They use them more in flare situations, getting the ball out of the backfield. He's a good inside zone runner. And then 25, I think, is a complete back. He's probably their best overall football player on that side of the ball. And he leads the team with 21 receptions, and he's also, I think, second in carry, leads the team in carries and receptions. And I think he's a guy that they can utilize in a variety of situations. He's a smart, tough runner, and I think that's kind of the book on them offensively. And I would guess, not having been in this league before, but I would guess that most coaches would say the same thing about Sac State, that they have very good skilled talent, specifically on the offensive side of the ball, and that's always a concern. And I think the quarterback is maturing. You can kind of see it week by week. He's making better decisions, getting the ball out of his hands quickly, finding those go-to guys, and they're utilizing their talent well. I think on the defensive side, it's been an interesting deal because you look at the Fresno State game, and I mean, basically it's a one-possession game going in the fourth quarter. It's 10-3, and then Fresno State kind of opens up a lead in the fourth quarter. And then you look at the Weber State game, and that's a 7-7 ball game with about 7 minutes to play. And so they played some very good defense at times. I think their best defensive players, their inside linebacker, Noah Pearson, number 55, very active, smart. You can tell he kind of gets those guys aligned. They have a secondary guy, number 19, that I think has been there forever, senior that's played a lot of football for him. He's a very productive player. And they have 2 ends, number 99 and number 98, that lead the team in TFLs and sacks. Those guys are good players. They do have a freshman interior defensive lineman that maybe doesn't have a lot of stats, number 91, very quick, causes a lot of problems. And so I like the group of guys that they have. They've given up some explosive plays at times, and they've hurt themselves with turnovers, not unlike what we did this last week against UND. And so I think that they're a dangerous, dangerous outfit. I think they're playing better football week by week. You saw that there was a vast improvement from week 1 to the Fresno State game, and then to week 2, or week 3 rather, when they played Weber, and then there was a very competitive game against Idaho State, and they've had 3 tough road games on the road. Now they're at home, and we've got to go to a tough environment in Sacramento. I know that's just from the days of playing in the old WAC when I was at Boise State. Sometimes you go to some of those California schools, and there's a lot going on in Sacramento, just like there was in San Jose. You go to San Jose, and it's a very different environment, especially because we've been at home, and we've been blessed to have tremendous atmospheres here for the last 3 weeks. And I think it's a very different feel. And what you got to do is you got to bring your own energy. We're not going to be able to rely on 19,000 strong to be giving us juice when we need it. And that was an unbelievable atmosphere on Saturday. I can't say enough about our home fans.
How has this team been able to rebound from the loss on Saturday?
I think they responded well yesterday. We spent some time, maybe a little bit more time in terms of the psychology part of it yesterday than we did maybe after the Idaho loss, because of the nature of this one. The Idaho loss was a very tough loss too, but I think there was a lot of unknowns going into that game. And I think now we expect to be competitive, and we expect to go out and win games. And the really hard part about that one is I felt like it was an opportunity maybe for us to have early in this process to kind of have a defining moment, to beat a good team at home, because it's really hard to win on the road in this league. And I felt like that was it was a squandered opportunity, and I think that everybody in that locker room after the game felt the exact same way I did, which is all the things that we had talked about going into this game. The game played out almost identical to what we had discussed, with one exception, and it was a glaring exception in terms of the turnover margin. And so I think these guys know that we're going to be honest with them, and we're going to put a good plan in front of them, and I think they trust us, and they responded very well yesterday, and I anticipate that we'll have a spirited week of practice.
You mentioned on Saturday, paring down the game plan defensively, giving up just a few calls. What was the specific game plan, and how we used a similar strategy before?
Well, part of the reason we needed to be simple was because UND does a lot of things. I mean, they didn't do as much against us as they've shown in some other games, but they have a lot of unbalanced formations where you've got to communicate. So if you make a call, if it's an exotic call, a blitz, for example, where alignment matters, well, all of a sudden now they trade those tight ends and they become unbalanced. So you've got 6 pieces of communication that have to take place. Well, if we just play our base calls and let our guys get lined up and play fast, that was certainly a big part of it. One of the objectives that we had was to try to get them to third down, because we felt once we got them to third down, now we could open up the playbook a little bit. They were a little bit more vanilla. They'd get into 11 personnel, one back, one tight end sets, and play a little bit more conventional offense than they do when they're in mix downs or it's a third and short. And so, our third downs were very good. I mean, they were 4-16 for 25%. We were 8-16 for 50%. So that part of the game, I think, played out fairly well for us.
Can you talk a little bit more about Byron? Obviously a tough situation for a first-year coach to be thrown into here.
Yeah.
Can you talk about how he's responding?
Well, the thing about Byron, I've known him since he was about 17 years old. And we're from the same part of the world. He's a Coeur d'Alene kid. I'm a St. Mary's kid. We have a lot in common in that regard. And, I knew when I was coaching him, when I was his position coach at Boise State, I knew that this guy was probably going to get into coaching because he wanted to be an education major, and that was the avenue that he was going to pursue. And I think at the time he had a girlfriend. He was trying to figure out if he was going to, do this or not. And when I left Boise, after the 2011 season and went to Washington State, I knew he was going to. We ended up having a guy leave, a graduate assistant leave late, and he didn't graduate until May. And so it's like the perfect storm. So I was able to get him to come up and work with me at Washington State for a year. And he matriculated back to Boise and finished his master's degree. And so I knew he was a guy that, when I got my opportunity, I was going to bring him along. And the cool thing about it is, he's been coached in a similar system, a similar culture, and I can help him a little bit, and he takes it exactly the right way. It's not like I'm stepping on his toes if I walk into the D-line meeting room and I want to say, hey, this is what we got to focus on today. I think he totally gets that, and I think he's cultivating a mentality and a mindset with our guys up front that is exactly who we need to be. It's about toughness, about ownership and your job, living in the 6 inches in front of your face is what we call it up front. And I just love the way those guys have responded. I think there's 2 unsung heroes on this defense right now, without question. That's Tucker Yates and Zach. I think those 2 guys, down in and down out, play in and play out, have given us an opportunity. And you can tell, I'm sure the linebackers would say the same thing. It's a little different world when those guys are, striking and leveraging their blocks and not letting those guys climb to the second level. And I think a lot of that has to do with the coaching that Byron's given those guys. We haven't given those guys a million things to do. It's been, this is your job and this is how you execute it. If this happens, this is how you respond. I think he's done a great job of giving those guys very concise coaching and giving them answers for problems.
Greg Collins, what have you seen out of him?
I think that guy has been really, really tough against the run. I mean, I wasn't quite sure because it was like that. You kind of go through that period of time in fall camp and even last spring where you're thinking, how's he going to adjust to this? Being an inside guy most of his career in high school as well as college, and there's always going to be those what ifs. Okay, how do I respond here? And the more he plays, the better he gets. He did a great job of setting the edge for us in the run game. I think he and Jesse complement each other extremely well. He's getting better as a pass rusher, which is what I thought he could bring to the table with his length and athleticism. And I think he's improved each week, which is what the objective is.
What's the learning curve like for a guy like Woody?
I think it's going to go quick. I think we've got him in a position where there's not a lot of, it's not making checks. He doesn't have to drop into coverage. I mean, it's just this is your alignment in this front. This is your alignment in this front. Here's your key. Here's how you respond if he does this. Here's how you respond if he does this. And even, he played in the game in defense, in the red zone, and did his job. And so he didn't flinch, and I think that's awesome. That we've got a guy that I think has real talent and ability and can give us some depth there. The good news is he doesn't have to learn it all right now because Marcus and Derek have done an awesome job. And those guys kind of have their rotation going. And if we can get a little bit more out of Woody week by week, that's going to be important because we've already seen that the D-line has been a little bit of an issue for us in terms of guys getting healthy.
Is Shiloh kind of working his way back?
We're working on him. He's maybe a little bit more of a long-term project. Some of the things that he's had with some stinger issues and those kind of things, we felt like we rushed him coming back maybe a little bit, and we wanted to make sure that we took our time. And so the play of those other guys have allowed us not to have to rush that. And I think that's what's in his best interest. And as long as those young guys keep rolling, we give him a little bit more time to get fully healthy. I think that we can all benefit in the long run.
You talk a lot about athleticism when it comes to pass rushing, but it looks like Grant's sort of developing a little bit more of a feel for it.
Yeah.
So he got some different moves than he used in Saturday.
Well, some of it was our line games. When he's able, we're working some different patterns that allow us to exploit what they're doing in protection, and so that's part of it. And as those guys play together, they get better at those things. When they go out there and do it day one, it looks like spaghetti on a plate. You do it 100 times and it gets done right. And so we're starting to develop some continuity there, and I think that's been good. And I also think that Grant's figuring out who he is as a pass rusher, and that's an important part of the process. Taking advantage of his length, and he's going to be a good player. I think he is a good player. I think he's going to be mature into a complete player with the ability to play the run and the pass efficiently.
With Woody's switch, do you worry? He's such a good young player on the other side of this. Do you worry about dropping
Peter to pay Paul? Yeah, I worry about that all the time. And that's a concern, but I think we've got to take a look at what our most immediate need is. We've got 3 guys tied in with Austin, Curtis Amos, and Sully that I think can provide enough for us there. We'll still use Woody in some two tight end sets, 22 personnel, tight red zone, those kind of things. He's got banked reps at that, so that's going to be good. But those are tough decisions sometimes because you got to evaluate what's best for the individual and how that fits into what's best for the organization as a whole. And I think right now this is the decision we need to make to maximize our ability to have a football team by week 11.
You talked about getting back to valuing the football. So what steps do you take, this week to make sure you're doing that?
Well, we started it yesterday. And some friendly reminders about how valuable that thing is, and not pressing, letting the game come to you, make good decisions with the football. We had 2 fumbles. One of them, hey, those are going to happen. Bang, bang plays and contact. The other one is a decision that we've got to make quicker and more decisive. And 2 of the interceptions were bad throws. And I think Tyler would be the first one to admit that. One of them, it's a tough situation. Those things happen. And so, that's the bottom line. Is we've got to do a good job of making sure that if we need to use some more hard count or what we call purple, where we're doing our look back so we can see where the pressure's coming from. The one interception we had, they actually got no points out of it. They missed a field goal in the first half when we ran the out route. I thought it was a great disguise. number 8, their big safety, would come down generally to the side the pressure was coming from. He was rolled down right on top of the receiver. We thought the Sam linebacker was coming, and both of them dropped out. They ended up max dropping and undercutting me out, and that was a really good call at the right time. I mean, by what we teach our quarterback, that's where he should have gone with the ball pre-snap, and I thought they did a nice job. I mean, that's a well-coached outfit and a good defense in their own right, and so you know, those things are going to happen. They have good players. They're on scholarship too. They're going to make plays. And, we've just got to be able to overcome those and not let it snowball. And that's what happened, is we turned one thing into another, and it's not good.
The throw at the end of the game to Mitch, you talked about putting that on a line. Was that essentially the same
throw that you had on our sideline in the third quarter? Exactly right. And you know, you can't float that. I mean, they were running a stick coverage where they're basically reading the number 2 receiver, and if he runs an out, he's going to hard play that, and the safety's going to jump over the top of the vertical. And so you know, he made the right throw earlier in the game, and I don't think he anticipated that coverage combination at that moment. Floated the ball a little bit. One of the things that I think, you know, that you know, we've got to do a better job of too, is as receivers, is we've got to do a better job of winning more 50-50 balls. I mean, there was a lot of opportunities for us, and some of it was tight coverage and those guys knocking the ball down. But you know, Herbie had 2 in that game that I thought, heck, maybe he makes that one. We're in a different situation, and so that's something that we've got to put our guys in position where throws are contested, and we go and compete for the ball. We've got to win those opportunities more frequently.
But you're not having a guy that can take the top off, not having the game breaker right now. Is there a way to remedy that with the guys you have on the field?
Well, I hope Jay Sean is one of those guys. He's got a little bit different speed than some of the other guys that we have right now. I think Kevin Cassis is emerging as a guy who has good short area quickness and can do some things for us. And but I think the throws are still there. You know, I mean, we're still finding ways to hit seam balls. We were able to push the ball down the field effectively against UND on Saturday and hit more explosive plays in the passing game. And I think those are things that are going to come. I mean, it's just amazing and frustrating and all those things at the same time, how close you are to becoming a really good team. And I think that we're just it's battling through some immaturity and learning some tough lessons. And those moments of clarity, I think, are ahead of us, and we've just got to stay the course and have the discipline to do that.
Jeff, John McKay once told me that he expected to lose at least 1 game for every freshman he played. Obviously, that's not going to happen with you, but how impressed have you been with your young kids?
Well, I think a lot of those guys have really stepped up at key moments in the game. Obviously, you can point to Kevin in this last game. You know, I just was sure that the guy upstairs was planning on us winning that game as many chances as he gave us. And you just knew, hey, all we need to do is make 1 play. And Kevin made that 1 play. You know, that's what it took. And so, yeah, I think it's interesting to see these guys develop. You know, to see the difference between, you know, Chris Murray, for example, as being a kid in Lawndale, was probably playing a lot of backyard ball, and now having to really be disciplined and play within a system and make good decisions and know the call. And so the level of preparation at that position in particular that you have to have, I think that catches up with guys when they've got to go to, you know, Psych 101 and English 101 and, you know, not stay up all night in the dorm playing whatever they play on their video games anymore. I don't even know. I was going to say Nintendo, but that would have been wrong. Yeah, so I think we've got some guys that are doing a really good job being in some tough situations. And I know this, we're going to be a battle-tested outfit, and we're not going to have a bunch of freshmen at the end of the year, because they will have played a season. You know, we're going to have a bunch of guys that have played some football around here that understand that the margin for error is very, very small. We play a lot of good teams, and we got a heck of a tough stretch coming up. And it starts with this road trip, because there's no easy road trip in the Big Sky. We don't travel the same way we did in the SEC or the Pac-12. We have a limited roster. You're only bringing 58 guys. Tough decisions have to be made, and it doesn't matter who you're playing. There's a reason why 73% of the teams in this league win at home, and that's part of it, is how you travel. And so we've got to you know, get that SWAT team mentality going this week and get ready to go play a tough opponent who's improved each week.
Overall, have you seen growth from your young kids?
Absolutely. You know, I mean, I think you could say we took a step back this last week. We took a step back in the turnover margin. Everything else we did better. I mean, we continued to play solid on defense against the run. We're making them earn it. Statistically, this was one of our better games on offense against a better defense. And so I think we had a good plan going in. And, you know, but we can't take 1 step forward in one area and 2 steps back in another, obviously. And so I think that was kind of the tail of the tape in this game.
Yeah,
But-
you know,
Sorry. Oh, I'm talking about the young kids. Though, have you seen the improvement that they've made?
Yes, I mean, you know, I think Kevin is a great example of that. I think Derek Marks is a great example of that. Guys that are playing a ton of downs as true freshmen, and each opportunity they get, they go out and they learn from the mistake they made previously, and they correct that and improve.
You had the odd clock situation in the last minute of the first half, just Chad going down. But did you feel like that? It looked like it took a long time after the gunner run to get the next play.
Yeah, well, we were kind of making a decision what we wanted to do there, because keep in mind that was a third down.
Yeah.
So do we want to punt here? What I really wanted to do was I wanted to try to get the ball somewhere near midfield so that we could launch and let the clock run out, even if it was a fourth down.
Sure.
And that was the ideal scenario. The ideal scenario didn't play out there. We had to make a decision what we wanted to do on third. Okay, let's go ahead and let's try to get us in a position where we can put the ball down the field. And we did. You know, we got tackled on this 8 or 9 yard line, whatever it was. It would have been better if we were a little closer to midfield and could have thrown the Hail Mary. You never know what's going to happen. In college football, those things seem to get caught a lot. But that was kind of the mindset and thought process going in there.
You know, Tyler seems to carry himself pretty even keel. Would you say that, you know, based on the performance on Saturday, he's still carrying himself that way? How would you say?
Yeah, he was in a funk. I mean, yesterday I had to drag him out of it a little bit. I mean, I think he takes things very seriously and very personally, and you know, hey, there's no one individual that ever wins or loses a football game. This is the greatest team sport in the world for a reason, and I can point to many examples in that game where Tyler made the right decision and the right throw and gave us opportunities. I know he's going to beat himself up over it, but you know what, his teammates got his back, and so do we as coaches, and I think he knows that you know how he carries himself is respected by his team, certainly by us. I mean, he's a very humble, hardworking young man, and you know, he wants to do better. Nobody goes out there trying to make mistakes. I get that.
Can you shed some light on the toughest decisions you've had to make to get to 58?
Well, they're in flux a little bit, you know, because it kind of changes each week by, okay, this guy is maybe not going to be able to play because of this injury. This guy's got this going on. This game plan plays into that. And so there's been a lot of that. There's so many moving parts. The roster thing has been an interesting evolution for me to kind of figure out, because there's, you know, when you're taking 72 in the Pac-12, there's not a lot of tough decisions. When you're taking 58 in the Big Sky, there's some tough decisions. And one of the things that doesn't help us right now is we don't have a place kicker that can do more than one thing. So we've got to travel 3 of those. So now that takes away another DB or another wide receiver. Game plan wise, it might be, hey, we're playing a spread offense, and we need to make sure that we have, you know, 2 nickels instead of 3 will linebackers. And so those decisions come down more to who's helping us in what area in the kicking game, and stylistically how we feel like we need to play the game. And those are certainly that's been an interesting challenge, you know, to go, what do you mean we can't take that guy? You know, what's the difference between 58 and 59 if we got to make a tough decision? You know, so whatever that arbitrary number is. So.
Would change your personnel at all on special teams?
I think you could see maybe some guys playing in some spots that we've been not having to use. You know, we've got some really good players that, you know, we get some young guys going. You know, you get Carl Tucker covering kicks. Well, you know, KT's one of those guys. Okay, is he going to be? He's going to be in the mix for us for sure this week. But that would be an example where you maybe have a guy that's primarily a special teams player, and at home you don't have to, you know, worry about where they're at in the depth chart on defense or offense. And now you got, okay, well, heck, might have to use Gunner a little bit more in one of these areas or whatever. And so yeah, that does come into play.
Did you have that limit in Idaho? The 58?
No, we could travel 70 because it was non-conference.
Last couple of years, Sac State has done some line games up front defensively to free up the middle linebacker. Do you see that again? Did they let him free
Yeah,
up?
you know, they're not a heavy blitz team.
Yeah.
They do like blitzing him because he's a pretty good blitzer. He's very active and disruptive. And so, yeah, they do some of that. They do, but they're kind of more of a static base defense, and they've, you know, I think they've done a nice job. And like I said, I mean, they improved dramatically from week 1 to week 2. You can see it. I mean, they obviously walked the dog a little bit against Western Oregon, and probably got lit up, and they came out and played some really good football against Weber State, and I kind of, or against Fresno, and then you saw it against Weber the next week, and you know, so it's been good. They've improved.
They've only scored 3 points total in the first quarter.
Yeah, slow starting outfit.
Right. So how, in this particular matchup, is that first quarter important is that going to be?
College football is a long game. I mean, that's what I tell our guys every week. I mean, the momentum swings and the ebbs and flows of college football, it is I mean, it's, you talk about dying 1,000 deaths. I mean, you know, can we have one more media timeout, you know, I mean, right when you think it's over. And so, I think that, yeah, hey, starting fast can be really important, but it's about finishing. And I think that's the biggest thing, is who's going to have the focus level and the conditioning to be able to finish in the fourth quarter. And there's, you know, we've had 2 games where we didn't get that done.
Do you see unique things they're doing offensively in the run game? Coach Kramer and Warren both mentioned that they were doing some weird stuff to kind of spread out the middle and attack. You just see that?
I'm seeing inside zone is what I'm seeing. No, I didn't see anything exotic. You know, they get into empty sets and run Q draw. They'll run some fold schemes inside, but those aren't things that are what I would call anything innovative. I mean, I think they're doing a good job of utilizing their personnel, but it's not, you know, Chip Kelly's trick offense or anything. I mean, it's pretty basic stuff.
The Western Oregon is the common opponent. Can we derive anything from?
Not a stinking thing, you know. I don't think there's any parallels at all. Again, I don't think that they, you know, maybe they overlooked them, which kind of helped us because it got our guys' attention. You know, because Sac State came in here and was very, very competitive until late in the game this last year in a tough environment. And I think historically there's been some shootouts, especially in Sacramento, against this outfit. And so, like I said, I mean, I think this is a team that's improved every week, and they have very good skill talent. I mean, I'd take all their wide receivers. I'd take those running backs. I mean, I'd be happy to have them. And so, you know, what we've got to do is we've got to have a good plan in place to neutralize those explosive plays on that side of the ball. We've got to leverage the quarterback, because when he gets out of the pocket, that's when he's really dangerous, and he does make plays with his feet. And, you know, we're going to have to establish the run game and do a good job of making good decisions when the football's in the air. And then we've got to go play our best game. We're not at that point where we can go out and not have our edge and win.
Good. Thank you.
Thanks, Coach.